Hello and welcome to the show. Have you ever been in that moment? That moment where someone is finally telling you the truth, and every single word feels like a physical blow? Someone has just laid it all bare. What they did, what all of them did, behind your back. And the reality of it is, it's sickening. You sit there listening, and it's not just the betrayal that shocks you. It's the chilling realization that the people you trusted, the people you shared your life with, were capable of such profound deception. The performance of deception, you realize they smiled right to your face. They laughed with you. They acted like they cared. But beneath that entire performance, they were engineering something designed to tear you down. And as you hear the full detailed story, it all clicks into place. This wasn't a series of mistakes. The rumors weren't just simple misunderstandings. This was deliberate. It was a coordinated effort to humiliate you, to isolate you, to make you doubt your own sanity and your own worth. They didn't just break your trust, they weaponized it. They took your kindness, your loyalty, your inherent decency, and they used it as ammunition. And that's what feels so revolting, because they knew. Deep down, they knew you would never, ever do that to them. But here's the thing they never counted on. They never counted on this day. They never imagined that the truth would find its way into the light. They didn't expect that someone in their own circle would finally break and confess everything, because that is the fundamental nature of destructive secrets. They rot from the inside out. Deception is never stable. It demands constant, exhausting maintenance. Every lie needs another lie to support it, until it becomes this tangled, suffocating web that not even the weavers can escape. Guilt doesn't just sleep peacefully. It is a relentless, active force. And sooner or later, the truth claws its way to the surface. And when it does, it exposes every single rotten piece of the game they were playing. Their toxic little secret is now filth, dragged out for all to see. Just like that, it's crystal clear who they really are. The masks don't just slip. They are shattered. You realize the very people who pretended to be your protectors were the ones plotting against you. The ones who dismissed you as too emotional or too sensitive were, in fact, the ones hiding the most. And once people see them for who they truly are, there's no going back. No amount of charm, no flimsy excuses, no fake apologies can erase that image. They are exposed, and you're left standing in the wreckage, trying to process this new reality. You feel sick. You feel angry. You feel completely exhausted. You start replaying every single moment in your head. Every conversation, every subtle look, every forced smile. And suddenly, it all makes sense. You see it now. You weren't being paranoid. You weren't overreacting. Your intuition was screaming at you the whole time. You just didn't want to believe that people you cared about were capable of such cruelty. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Accepting that they were. But this moment of painful acceptance, is also the exact moment your true strength begins to ignite. Because when you finally stop trying to protect their image, you start protecting your own peace. When you stop giving them the benefit of the doubt, you start giving yourself the benefit of the truth. And once you embrace that truth, you become powerful. You stop needing explanations from people who have no integrity. You stop seeking closure from cowards. You stop trying to repair something that was built on a foundation of lies. They wanted to break you, but what they actually did was light the fire that is going to purify you. The second you know the full truth, you are set free from the illusion. You finally see people for what they are, not for what they pretended to be. You stop depending on their fake loyalty, and you start standing on your own foundation. The truth, yes, it hurts. But it also heals. It forces you to evolve. It makes you sharper, wiser, and impossible to deceive on this level ever again. Their burden, your resurrection, and make no mistake, that confession changes the entire landscape. It doesn't just reveal the past, it reshapes the future. The person who confessed, they likely didn't do it from a place of courage. They did it because the guilt was literally crushing them. Because, as we said, lies always collapse under their own weight. So while you were out here, trying to rebuild your life, they were slowly suffocating. Every shared secret, every betrayal, eats away at a person's soul. It becomes a mirror they can't stand to look into. They might put on a brave face in public, but in private, they are haunted by what they did to you. So don't waste your precious energy on hatred. They have already sentenced themselves to a life of silent conviction. Let universal justice, let their own memories be the teacher. You can trust that the universe, or God, has a way of balancing the scales without your interference. Your job is not revenge. Your job is resurrection. It's time to rise from the very ground they tried to bury you under. Use this truth as fuel. Every time you feel that sting of what they did, remind yourself, this pain is proof of your decency. You were the one capable of genuine love, loyalty, and trust. They tried to destroy something beautiful because they couldn't stand the light you carried. Now, they have to live with the knowledge that the one person who would have never betrayed them is the one they chose to betray. That is their burden. That's what they see in the mirror every morning. They can't escape it. Your new vision, so now, you walk forward. But you walk forward with clarity. You've lost your illusions, but you have gained your vision. You see how this kind of negativity operates, in small whispers, in fake sympathy, in quiet, calculated schemes. But you also see that it cannot survive true honesty. You understand now that your strength isn't just in your kindness. It's in your boundaries. You don't need to lower yourself to their level to win. The truth already won for you, so stand tall. Let them talk. Let them try to justify themselves. Let them crumble under the weight of the truth they tried to bury. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. The world always rebalances itself. The lies that once seemed to elevate them are the very things that will tear them down. Because nothing built on deceit is meant to last. But you will last. You will rise above the ruins they created, stronger, wiser, and more powerful than you ever were before. Because the truth, no matter how much it hurts, always belongs to the brave. And you are brave enough to face it. And when you do face it, when you realize that the truth has finally fully surfaced, you can almost feel the universe itself click back into alignment. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about revelation. The darkness has been pierced, and the game is over. Those who betrayed you are no longer hidden behind their masks. You can see them clearly now, and they suddenly seem small, stripped of all their false confidence. They thought they could play God. They thought they could control the narrative, twist reality, and decide your worth. But the truth has a way of reminding everyone that they are only human, and humans cannot outsmart morality forever. So yes, someone confessed, and what they revealed was disgusting. But don't miss the deeper significance of this moment. What's been revealed didn't just expose their filth. It validated your strength. You survived what they tried to bury you under. You endured the lies, the manipulation, the whispers, and the isolation. And now, the truth itself has fought its way to you. That is not an accident. That is the nature of reality. Every betrayal will eventually rot. Every mask will crack under the pressure of its own falsehood. Every hidden action will demand a reckoning. That's why you never need to chase revenge. The truth is already doing the work for you. It's patient, it's silent, and it is unstoppable. So don't let the ugliness of their confession make you bitter. Let it make you wise. Because while the truth absolutely shatters illusions, it also builds indestructible strength. You now know what deception looks like up close. You know what fake loyalty feels like in your bones. And that knowledge, that clarity, will protect you for the rest of your life. The why behind the betrayal. It's so easy, in these moments, to assume that something must be wrong with you. That maybe you weren't enough. That you did something to invite this. But let's be very clear. Betrayal is not about your shortcomings. It is about their character. What they did behind your back says everything about them and nothing about you. It exposes their own moral decay, their envy, their weakness. People don't stab you in the back because you're weak. They do it because you have something they can't match. Integrity, light, authenticity. Your very existence becomes a quiet reminder of everything they've given up on in themselves. You have to understand, this wasn't random. It was born from resentment. Some people cannot stand to see you walk with self-respect because it highlights their own lack of it. They can't handle that you're steady while they're unstable, that you're truthful while they are false. So instead of doing the hard work of fixing themselves, they decide to try and corrupt you. They lie, they gossip, they manipulate, all because your decency exposed their deception. It is a disgusting truth, but it is also a liberating one. When you stop taking their betrayal personally, you start to see how predictable it really was. When someone betrays you, they are making a trade. They're trading long-term respect for a short-term thrill. They're trading real trust for cheap gossip. They're trading authenticity for the approval of other broken people. They get a temporary rush from seeing you hurt, a false sense of power in knowing something you don't, but that rush fades. And what replaces it is a deep, corrosive shame. Oh, they'll still act proud. They'll put on the front. They'll talk loud, laugh harder, and act like they are completely unaffected. But inside, they know exactly what they did. They carry it like a secret illness that eats away at them, day by day. People like that often live in a state of constant comparison, always watching others, measuring their own worth against someone else's life. When people live without a core purpose, the only way they feel alive is by tearing others down. But they never account for the mirror. Every time they betray someone, they reinforce the kind of person they are. Every lie they tell distances them further from peace. You cannot build happiness on the suffering of others. It always collapses. Their laughter becomes forced. Their victories feel empty. That's what happens when you betray good people. You curse yourself with meaninglessness, the gift and the pain, but for you, that pain becomes power. You might lose faith in people for a little while, but you gain a deeper, unshakable faith in truth. You begin to see how rare loyalty really is. You understand how sacred honesty is. The pain of this betrayal doesn't just break you. It reshapes you. It hardens you, but not in a cruel way. It gives you edges. You learn to read the room. You learn to sense the falseness in someone's tone, the emptiness behind their overly kind words. You become wiser, sharper, and much, much harder to fool. That is the hidden gift in all of this. It refines your discernment, and as time passes, you'll start to see the pattern. The people who betrayed you, they just move on. They find a new target. They repeat the same behavior because they never learned the lesson. They think they're getting away with it, but their world keeps getting smaller. Fewer people trust them. Their relationships are shallow. They become trapped in the very cycle of lies they used against you. That's not success. That's self-destruction wearing a mask of control. You, on the other hand, begin to rebuild. You stop wasting time trying to prove your worth to people who were never worthy of your trust. You stop seeking apologies from those who are incapable of remorse. And you start channeling all of that pain and anger into something productive. Your growth. Your strength. Your focus. The betrayal that once felt like a curse becomes a kind of armor. You realize that being betrayed doesn't make you naive. It means you were brave enough to trust. It means you were capable of love in a world full of manipulation. And that is something the betrayer can never take from you. They can lie about you. They can mock you. They can smear your name. But they cannot touch your truth. They cannot rewrite your character. They only and ever reveal their own. And eventually people see it. Maybe not right away, but time becomes your witness. The world notices who is bitter and who is balanced, who is fake and who is firm. Your silence will speak louder than all their noise. So don't let their poison infect you. Let their actions define them, not you. Because in the end, betrayal is temporary, but integrity is eternal. Their deceit may have shaken you, but it did not destroy you. It showed you exactly who you are. And that's something they'll never understand. Because the truth is, you were never the weak one in this story. You were the test they failed. This perspective shift, this realization that the truth has surfaced, doesn't happen in an instant. It's a slow sunrise after a very long night, but once that light hits, everything changes. The pain loses its ability to control you. It stops being the definition of who you are and starts becoming the refining fire that sharpens you. Slowly, you start the crucial work of rebuilding your own self-worth. The trust you lost in others doesn't just vanish. It turns inward. You begin to trust yourself again. You honor your instincts. You respect those quiet feelings that told you something was wrong long before the evidence appeared. You stop silencing that internal voice just to keep the peace with people who weren't operating in good faith. Walking with awareness now, you walk differently. It's not paranoia. It's awareness. The same agony that once threatened to break you becomes the very bedrock of your new confidence. Why? Because you no longer crave validation from those who could so easily lie to protect their own fragile images. Instead, you find profound peace simply existing within your own hard-won truth. And here is the beautiful dividend of enduring such hardship. Once you survive that level of pain, a deep, unshakable calmness takes its place. You become grounded, sharper, more self-contained. You stop falling for sweet words or empty gestures because you now understand that actions reveal everything. You stop chasing people who can't match the loyalty you offer. You stop wasting time explaining your worth to those incapable of seeing it. The experience taught you the crucial difference between genuine connection and destructive attachment. It taught you the difference between loyalty and willful blindness. What they did behind your back may have been disgusting, but what it awakened inside of you is nothing short of remarkable. The truth destroyed your comforting illusions, yes, but it gifted you wisdom. That's the trade-off life often demands. It takes away your comfort to hand you permanent clarity. And that clarity allows you to see patterns, tones, and motives that used to slip right past you. You are no longer naive. And that makes you powerful, not cruel, but dangerous to anyone who tries to cross your boundaries again. The self-imposed sentence of guilt eventually, you reach a point where the emotional shock no longer consumes you. It transforms into a quiet, knowing strength. You stop needing closure because you realize the truth itself is the closure. You stop waiting for apologies because you understand that those who committed the wrong aren't capable of genuine remorse. And you stop seeking revenge because you see they are already paying the price through the corrosion of their own character. The people who hurt you will live with the memory of their actions long after you have healed from the sting. And while they remain stuck in that tight, suffocating cycle of guilt and denial, you move forward lighter. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes the undeniable proof of your growth. You survived what was designed to destroy you, and you chose not to become like them. That is power. That is moral strength. The inevitability of consequence. You don't need to chase justice or force an exposure. The world has its own self-correcting mechanisms, and guilt is one of the sharpest weapons it employs. When someone commits an act of betrayal, they might celebrate the initial victory. They think they got away with it. But life isn't finished when the act is done. That's just the beginning of their consequence. What follows them is far heavier than your anger. It's their own conscience. People vastly underestimate how destructive guilt is. They think they can lie their way out of accountability, but the human psyche craves moral balance. When that balance is shattered by cruelty, they fracture themselves. It may take weeks, months, or years, but eventually, the lie becomes their constant shadow. Every time they see someone who reminds them of you, every time they tell that same lie again, it eats at them. That guilt whispers. It surfaces in the quiet moments when the distractions fade. They can pretend all they want, but you cannot silence a conscience that knows the truth. It ruins their peace, drains the color from their enjoyment, and serves them the same insecurity they inflicted upon you. There is a cost to every action. When someone intentionally harms another, they wound their own soul in the process. They may not feel it immediately because they are distracted by their illusion of victory, but that wound festers. It manifests as anxiety, restlessness, and an inability to feel true joy. And here is the most crucial lesson. You don't have to do anything. Retaliation keeps you tethered to the past and connected to people who don't deserve your energy. Letting go doesn't mean weakness. It means you trust that life doesn't ignore injustice. You rise above it because you know that what's meant to come to them will come without your effort. They will run from their guilt, distracting themselves with noise, new projects, and forced smiles. But guilt doesn't chase, it waits. And when it finally lands, they will understand what it feels like to be lied to be wounded by someone they trusted. You have survived this trial. You have seen the darkness up close, and you chose to maintain your integrity instead of sinking to their level. That is where your lasting power lies, not in revenge, but in knowing the truth, surviving it, and walking away whole. Pain fades, but the wisdom it forges, that stays forever. You will be living lighter, stronger, and cleaner. Why? Because while guilt and deceit relentlessly destroy the dishonest, truth is the absolute protector and healer of the innocent. You have rebuilt yourself from the ground up, this time without the weight of any illusions. You have learned the hardest lesson, that true justice doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers quietly and precisely, in ways that can never be denied. So when you catch yourself thinking about what they did, wondering if they'll ever truly pay, remember this, they already are. Every lie they told was a seed of instability planted deep in their own mind. Every act of cruelty is now a psychological ghost that follows them everywhere. You don't need to see it to know it's real. You simply need to trust that what is done in darkness will always, eventually, return to the light. You don't have to be the one to ruin them. Life will handle that. All you have to do is rise, because while guilt and consequence hunt the wicked, peace and clarity protect the righteous. The balance always restores itself whether you are watching or not. When you finally hear the truth, something irreversible happens inside you. It's as if a deep fog lifts, and you see the faces behind the masks for the very first time. You realize the laughter, the conversations, the moments you once cherished, All of it was staged, crafted for their benefit, not yours. That confession changes everything. It doesn't just expose what they did. It exposes who they are, and it forces you to decide who you will become now that you see things so clearly. Once the illusion breaks, you can never go back to being the person who believed in it. The moment you hear the truth, you stop living inside the false story they created for you. They had you trapped, feeding you lies, shaping your emotions so you would stay predictable and compliant. They built a version of reality where you were the fool they could outsmart. But the confession collapses that entire rotten structure. You realize you were never the weak one. You were just too honest to think like a snake. And that, my friends, is not weakness. That is moral strength disguised as innocence. The power of self-awareness. Once you know the truth, you reclaim your narrative. You stop living from a place of illusion and start living from profound self-awareness. You stop apologizing for things you didn't do. You stop questioning your own intuition. You stop craving validation from people who were never capable of giving it. You begin to rebuild your boundaries, not as walls of fear, but as lines of wisdom. You learn that not everyone deserves access to your heart. You understand that trust is sacred, and giving it to the wrong person is not kindness. It's self-betrayal. The confession may have broken your heart, but it simultaneously unlocked your power. The pain of hearing it was necessary because it violently pushed you out of the prison of ignorance. You will mourn the person you used to be, the one who believed in them. But you will also gain a deeper respect for yourself because you now know your ability to endure the full, brutal truth without letting it destroy you. That is a rare and profound strength. The ultimate transformation, what is most powerful, is what happens now. You stop playing their game entirely. You no longer care about proving your worth or showing them how wrong they were. You simply outgrow it. You start to realize that peace is infinitely more valuable than revenge. You don't need to scream your truth from the rooftops anymore because the truth itself now speaks louder than you ever could. Those who need to see it will see it. Those who don't are no longer your concern. You have stepped out of their world and into your own. This is what true transformation looks like. It is quiet, it is deliberate, and it is unstoppable. You begin to feel lighter without the weight of all that pretense. You rediscover parts of yourself that had been buried under their manipulation. Your laughter, your confidence, your creativity. You start to enjoy solitude because it is honest. No games, no lies, no walking on eggshells. Just peace. And while you rise, they fall deeper into their own mess. Their alliances crumble. They turn on each other because deceit always breeds paranoia. They start wondering who else knows, who else will confess. That is the natural order of things. Deception collapses from the inside. You don't even have to lift a finger. All you have to do is keep moving forward while it burns behind you. Knowing the truth is freedom, but it is also responsibility. You must live differently now. You owe it to yourself to rise beyond this, to become wiser, not bitter, to turn this pain into understanding, not revenge. Because the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It is transformation. It's building a life so strong and grounded that their betrayal becomes utterly irrelevant. The confession was disgusting. It cut deep, but in the end, it did something far more important. It set you free. It handed you the pen and said, write your own story now. And you will. You'll write it with truth, courage, and clarity. You'll no longer be a character in their manipulation. You will be the author of your own redemption, and that's how you win. Not by exposing them further, but by living so authentically that nothing they ever did can touch you again.